Containment Episode 2, I to Die, You to Live. I like this episode. I thought it was really cool that they had the threat of the exposure of the virus kind of expanding beyond the quarantine zone, which we find out actually didn't happen, but it's still spreading within the quarantine zone, and ultimately they do get the girl by the end of the episode. And it seemed like they were kind of missing a couple of people. Like they put Teresa's friend on the news, so she was freaked out that she might actually be infected because her friend kissed her before the girl was even at the party. Seemingly, the way it was edited, it seemed like the girl got there after that whole scene where she went to go where Teresa's friend came to get her and everything. But she was freaked out, and so she uses the bleach to clean everything off, and it's I don't want to kill my grandmother, so I'm gonna get the heck out of here, which I thought was a really cool scene. And I thought it's one of those things in TV where sometimes people freak out and they don't do the right thing, and it's it's probably okay. Like, she had the right reaction. She freaked out, and even if she was infected, it was well, there's nothing I can do for myself, but I can at least try not to kill my grandmother. So she freaked out, bleached up the plate and everything, wiped everything down that she touched, picked up all the food, and she took off. And I was like, that's a smart reaction. That's what should happen. And then, you watch TV, and a lot of times people just do really stupid stuff, or they have a lesson reaction to stuff that should be a really, really big deal. So I was happy to see. I was like, that's just logical writing, because that's what you would do in real life. Or you'd completely forget. Some people probably wouldn't be so calm. But, I thought that was really cool. I was like, alright, that definitely works. And it makes a lot of sense. And so we still have the virus seemingly contained. But like I said, when I mentioned, I felt like they were missing some people. They put 2 people on the news, but they showed a bunch of people at that party. And considering the girl went from the bathroom to that bedroom, and I don't believe they showed exactly how close it was, just them being in that small space, and they also have the driver, and I'm assuming that's who the guy was that was on the news. So they have the driver, they have the girl who's definitely gonna die, and then they have Teresa's friend, and that was it. And I'm like, there were definitely more people at that party. You think they would have put all of them in quarantine, because the girl clearly had the virus before she got to the house. She walked in the door and she was really messed up and super tired and stuff. So I'm like, you'd think they would have had all of them, but that ending scene, it was kind of they showed 2 people walking to the quarantine things. And I was like, that seems like they should have had all those people completely quarantined and everything. And I just feel like they might be missing. I'm assuming that everything else will be fine, and I'm assuming that's why only those people showed up, because they checked everybody else. But you think, considering how quickly they did the whole quarantine of the entire city, that they would have kind of been keeping in touch, hey, quarantine all those people. Who cares if they show symptoms or not? It takes an hour, basically, to start killing people, so quarantine everybody is what I would have thought they'd do. But they got a little bit lax on that part, and then they kind of upped it for the quarantine of the city, and we get to see how the people in the very first episode on day 13, how they came out of that cargo hold, is because they're putting cargo containers around the entire city to block it all off. And I thought that was really cool. I was like, that's an interesting way to do that. And of course, Teresa's talking with Xander, and he's like, I'm going to come in anyway, which, once again, that's one of those stupid decisions we always see in TV. And he sees all these containers and is like, well, that's not going to happen. There's nothing he can do. I thought for sure for a second that I was like, I hope he doesn't still try to do something really stupid and trying to get through some cargo containers, because I thought he was going to try to just run through anyway. And I'm like, he's definitely going to die if that happens, or at least get slammed into the ground, which they kind of made a big deal out of early on in the episode. But he didn't end up doing that at the end. But we have the stuff with Lex where he's kind of, with the media, it's he's a hero at first because he saves Xander from the other cop, and they kind of play it off as oh, police brutality, a white cop, a white kid. And so they played it off that way, and then the next day the same reporter's hero or corporate stooge, and it's alright, well, now he's just switching up stuff because this guy is just he's trying to do the right thing. He's just trying to help people within the city. It wasn't even about, race or anything like that. That's how, they made it seem. And that's, who knows, that could have been how it was. But, just the way it's all playing out, where it's it starts off as man, you're a hero to the city and everything. And then the next day it's like, oh, you're a corporate stooge and I have people on the inside and stuff, which he clearly has some crazy connections because they did this stuff, and I totally forgot the other guy's name. I have to look it up really quick. Jake, when he was going through, like, to actually look at the house, one of the reporter's friends apparently just had, like, a live stream going. I'm like, he does have some crazy connections. Like, he knew this stuff before Lex did. He has someone on the inside, doing a live stream for the actual website and everything. So I feel like he might become a bit of a more important player throughout, the rest of the series. But I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, okay, he has these connections. He knows stuff before even Lex knows it. And it kind of does show that he's being kept out of the loop, even though he's being used as the face. Although I thought the reporter was being a bit of a dick because he's like, they're just using him as like, a mouthpiece. He's like, Captain Mouthpiece or whatever. And I'm like, he's being a real dick right now. As if this guy chose not to know everything. Like, it was his choice to help the city without knowing everything. Like, that was on him to make that decision. I'm like, this guy's kind of being a dick, to be totally honest. But I still feel like, considering what we got to see, especially with like the live stream stuff, he might have an important role to play where he shows people what the normal media doesn't want to show. Because that's the thing where things get like really chaotic. They don't want to show everything, or they don't want to say everything. Just like when they didn't know whether or not the girl was inside or outside the quarantine zone, they didn't want to say anything. And that's always the case where it's like, we can't say definitively yes or no just yet until we find out, because it would just cause mass panic before there needs to be mass panic. Although if there needs to be, then you can only be right in one of those situations. It's either say it now and let everybody freak out and take off, or don't say it and be wrong. So you only have like two choices there, and you can only be right with one of them. But fortunately, everything kind of seemingly sort of worked out fine. Obviously, it's still going to spread to like mass chaos on day 13 with just people running around. They haven't done the rioting just yet, but it's getting a little bit tense. And we have Jake who's kind of spiraling and stuff. And I finally realized why I recognized that guy, because when I was watching, I was like, I don't know why he looks so insanely familiar to me. And I was like, maybe it's because he looks like Dane Cook, which he does. But I realized it's because he was in the Vampire Diaries. So I was like, he looks so familiar. And when I was looking up like the last episode, I was like, oh, because they have like the profile pictures for all the people. I was like, oh, that's why he looked familiar, because I couldn't recognize him because his facial hair is like totally different. But he was in the Vampire Diaries, so I was like, that's why I recognize him. He was a crazy character in that, but not so crazy. He's losing it a little bit in this one, but I think he'll manage to do just fine. And we still have our other characters. We have Katie, I believe, is her teacher. Yeah, so we have Katie kind of looking after her son and after the other kids, and we know that kind of falls apart towards the end, because when they do the day 13 thing, she's holding the girl, and I believe she's holding the little girl that answered the question in this episode, like, what is a quarantine, or what's virus, or whatever. So eventually that just falls apart, and maybe she wasn't even sick, because she wouldn't be holding her if she was sick. So maybe she was shot or just wounded or unconscious or something, and it had nothing to do with the virus. But things are getting a little crazy. They had the little scare on the inside. We had I'm still curious how bad it is, because I know they have like the visor things, but the doctor that was doing like the autopsy, and like I can't remember what blood he cut something, and of course I knew that was gonna happen. Like, he's gonna cut something and it's gonna like explode on him, and he does, and blood like splatters on him, and he seems freaked out a little bit, but not too freaked out. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's dead. Like, I'm pretty sure that's gonna lead to more spreading of the virus, because it's like, oh, we got on the visor, I'm totally fine, but he's right there breathing it in. I don't believe he had a mask on. That was like my main thing. Like, I know he has the visor, but I don't think he has a mask on underneath the visor, which they definitely need, because it's spread through fluids and stuff like that, which technically you can inhale fluids, because particles, that's what they are. It's just a bunch of them together. It's fluids, and then you separate it. It's just particles in the air. So I'm pretty sure that doctor's going to be dead, but he's going to assume that he's safe, and that's going to kind of destroy the system within the hospital. That's my guess, at least. I could be wrong, and he could be totally fine, but considering how deadly this virus is, I feel like that might, kind of be it. It could be like, the tiniest speck of blood that got, past the visor or something that, the doc didn't notice. And that can be it. And that could destroy, everything within the hospital. And then that sends all those characters out into just everything else. And they can't, lock down the hospital when people within the hospital are, killing everybody. So, not sure where it's going to lead to in the next episode. But definitely excited to get to it. Glad I'm, finally able to, get to this series. I'm really enjoying these first 2 episodes. So, definitely looking forward to the next one. But of course, want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And with it only being the 2nd episode, there's still a lot to go. And we still have, I guess we're technically in day 2. And then, we still have day 13. It's like crazy mass hysteria and chaos. I definitely want to know your predictions on what causes, the chaos, Because I would assume it's not just, people are hungry and rioting and stuff. It has to be the virus has spread a little bit more. Because we have that one guy who's walking up to the little girl. So the virus clearly has spread within the quarantine zone. It doesn't stay as simple as it has been these past 2 episodes. So we'd love to know your predictions on how it gets worse. Like if you think it might be the doctor or something random if you have a prediction. And you might have a guess considering I'm so far behind you might already know the answer. But we'd love to know your predictions on that, and of course what you thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.